and stuff as we had the last month off actually. It did, so it's hopefully soon to be spring here with some warm weather coming our area. All right. First and foremost here, we'll go ahead and continue on with the agenda here. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance in the moment of silence as well too.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First on the agenda here, we'll approval. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda for this evening?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting, January 31st.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? All right, motion carries. All right, next on the agenda here, we have public comment. I believe everyone who is choosing to speak tonight has signed in already. Okay, thank you for that. So first what we'll do is thank you for everyone to attending. When we call up your name, if you want to go ahead and just step up to, I don't know if there's a podium here or.
Stand that direction will be on the video. That's
Okay.
at your discretion, I suppose.
Okay, yes, if you want to stand over here in the area and go ahead and speak here. For public comments, we do ask to keep it to at least 3 minutes max, and we'll go forward from there. All right. First, you gonna go ahead and call first?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Kelly Kimmerling. I've been a part of APA for 9 years. I have a senior, and then I also have twins that are in 8th grade. I'm coming to you guys today with, because there's a lot of things about APA that we love, and then there's some of us that are having some issues with some other things. I feel blessed because of the small class sizes and all of the people that I've met through the school. It's like a family, until things go astray. Things we're wanting to address is the search and seizures, the bathroom breaks, after school detention, prior notification, parent notifications, injuries, investigations, berating of kids and parents in front of other children, berating of staff in front of other parents and kids, kids signing papers without parental consent, parent and school communication, staff refusing to take a private confidential meeting with a parent, even when following proper protocol. Students need to feel safe speaking to the staff and admin and counselors. When a student sees a counselor and is told, get over it, that's life, get back to class, that does inspire trust or feelings are being heard. With search and seizures, body searches that are being performed are not stated in the handbook. Do you guys have any, Harold, did you have a
incidents is happening
Yes.
with my daughter, and
Okay.
we can talk about it specifics later.
Okay.
When we do that.
Bathroom breaks, about not being in the handbook. For after-school detention, the advance notice, some of us weren't even getting notifications that our kids had after-school detention until the day of. We feel that we need more than just less than 24 hours. Phoning a parent when a student is injured at school. Phone parent when child goes to a principal to report concerns in teachers. Phone parent if child is brought into the office for questioning when an investigation is going on. Berating of kids in front of other kids and parents by teachers and counselors. My daughter is Molly has a really hard time with that. Students need to feel safe when they talk to staff, and we feel as a group of parents that it's not getting addressed the way it needs to be addressed. And I want to know that my children have a safe place to go to school every day, and not when they're coming home and crying. And it's not just my student, there's a group of us, there's a group of parents. We're just ready for things to change, and we're willing to put in the effort to make this happen. We just want to be brought in on it. We just want the communication to open. Am I doing okay? Okay. So, there's my 3 minutes, I'm sorry.
You're fine. Well, thank you for speaking, and,
I'll reach out.
would you reach out? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, all right, thank you. Next.
Yes. Thank you all. You probably know that I was a previous instructor here at APA, as far as being the junior ROTC instructor along with Sergeant Tidwell. But there's some questions I need to ask because there needs some clarification to the board of previous things that had happened before May of 2022. And here's my first question. Were there any conversations with others in Air Force Junior ROTC headquarters in May 2022 to ensure that the Air Force Junior ROTC at APA would not become an inactive unit? There were some discussions about that because we knew the individuals that they had hired was really incapable of junior ROTC because they didn't have previous training, and they would have went to junior ROTC training session of this year of June. The second question is this: was there a message sent to Air Force Junior ROTC headquarters from ABA that affirmed whatever action that was? If so, what were the results or the comments from Air Force Junior ROTC? And the last question is this: was the Air Force Junior ROTC instructor given a yes to rescind their resignation to help avoid the units to become inactive? And those are my questions. And I would ask that if it does go forward to the senior administration, that if there is something that I can react to that at least the board member is there that can truly understand further clarifications to these questions that have been submitted. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you need this?
Thank you.
Do you need the copy?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, we'll take your submission for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next.
Brady Billiken? She's. Carol Hatter?
Carol Hatter, and I have the same feelings about APA that Kelly does. I've been here 9 years with my kids. And there's a lot of things we love about APA too. We just want to have a few more things communicated and maybe open lines between the parents and the admin, and maybe help make something better. And open the communication and maybe reduce anxiety between the parents and the kids and the school, both ways. I think if we could probably get together on some things, it would be better. I have actually witnessed children being berated in front of other kids and parents and in front of teachers. Why it should have been taken privately and not discussed in front of other kids. Also, seeing a teacher be berated in front of other staff members and in front of other kids. And also, one other thing, feel like it's important for kids not to be signing papers without parental consent. So, we've also had some kids, I mean, I know this firsthand, 3 of these are what was told to my daughter from a counselor. And so she doesn't feel safe we want our kids to feel like APA is a safe place. And we want to be able to feel like when we send our kids here, that they're gonna be okay. So, she has gone to a counselor and been told to get over it, that's life. And my favorite, you need to separate your personal life from your school life. It's not making the kids feel comfortable when they're talked to that way, and, there's also, this wasn't my child, I guess I could speak for someone else's child, they were told that brain breaks for kids that use their brains was something that was said from a teacher to a child. And my kids have also told me, and they won't tell me who, but there are teachers who are cussing in the classrooms. They don't wanna tell because they like the teachers and they don't wanna get them in trouble. So there's just a few things on our minds that we want to work with the school, try to make things better for everybody. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Next.
Kayla Birch?
I wanted to address my son being interviewed without my knowledge, that there was even an investigation or that he was being interviewed. I think that's inappropriate and also against, what is it, FERPA? And then I also wanted to address the whole restroom policy where they're not allowed to go to the bathroom during breaks. But he also said that if he asks the teacher, it's up to the teacher whether or not he's allowed to go. So if they're not allowed to go during passing period, they must be allowed to go if they ask. It should not be up to the teacher. That is absolutely absurd. So I'm just upset that that is what I was informed by you guys. That was your wordage. To me as the parent, it is not up to a teacher if my son has to potty. And for you guys to say that to me is beyond unsettling. How would you feel if it was your kid? That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Sarah Scott?
I don't know.
Good evening, everyone. My question is based on what was said, I think the last board meeting about the new payload system. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. My question is it something that the students are gonna be aware of once it's installed? And if so, would you think that'd be a problem because it's a sensitive program or security system that I understand? And if they're gonna be doing things just to get a reaction from the teacher or try to get a teacher in trouble or a teacher trying to get a student in trouble because of the nature of the system itself. Thank you.
That's it.
Okay, that's everyone. All right. Well, thank you for everyone speaking your comments tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, you're welcome. All right. Next thing on the agenda here, we'll get approval of the meeting minutes from November 29th of 2022. If I can get a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I think this has been clarified before, but I just want to check. I was marked as being in attendance. I was technically here at the moment we started, but I left immediately after, so I can't remember. I think I'm still supposed to be counted as present. That needs to be corrected. That may be one thing.
Okay.
Something at the Paramount, wouldn't it?
That's right.
That's
All right. Any further discussion?
Under the CEO report, there's a typo of my name.
Okay. Uh-huh.
looks like that is a frequent target of misspelling.
I still know it was my last name.
Okay.
All right. All right. Any other further discussion? All right, if not, will all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. We'll add those edits as well there too for that. Thank you. Next thing on the agenda here is approval of the CEO report of January 31st of 2023.
I'll move that we approve the CEO report as presented.
I'll second it.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I say it's a book, sorry guys.
That's a lot longer. The Qualtrics software, I was interested in that. It's
Yes.
and wouldn't you probably know why? Very
Uh-huh.
closely related to the work that I do. But I was a couple things. I guess it's expanded quite a lot from what I'd known of it before, where I thought of it as being primarily survey software, and it looks like it goes quite a bit beyond that now, with the full dashboards and reporting and stuff. So I guess I would expect there to be a developer or somebody in that sort of role. Is that what you're going to handle between yourself and Brel?
Yeah, well, with that, right now I'm being trained by CISA 6, and so they're training me. We meet for about hour and a half each week, and I show them all the things I've done, and they tell me how I could have saved myself an hour. And then I will be asking Angie, because she has volunteered to help with this, and also Derek Kramer. They have a base camp, like some learning modules there, so they'll be able to help get that information inputted. Especially once the dashboards are built, Derek is our data coach and manager, and so he'll just be able to upload an Excel spreadsheet into it, and then it will use the unique ID to put it where it belongs. Once a lot of them are one-time builds, so especially with like procurement policy or processes, which is what I'm putting in there right now, the work orders and those things. But in playing around with it, some of the questions I was asking CISA 6, he said, well, nobody has asked me that. And so now we're having a lot of fun with it.
Nice.
So
Well,
it's my new hobby.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I think it's
Oh.
very.
I'm glad to hear you have a hobby.
Yes, it's all school related, but
Yeah, I'm excited to see the output because, like I said, I had always thought of it as just being survey software. It's obviously gone quite a bit beyond that now.
it has, and a lot of it, especially with the forms, they are basically survey input. But the back end, what you can do with everything else it's pretty cool.
Nice.
So one of the things that Angie is going to help me on, and she's super excited, is our enrollment packets. So then everything can just be, here's a link, and we'll have better luck. One of the things that we can do on there is if they miss a signature or they don't check a box or whatever, it'll stop them and give them, hey, go back and do this. So that will help us just make sure we get everything we need, and then families will be able to just upload documents to it from phones or screenshots and things. So
Nice.
it's gonna be
Very
pretty
exciting.
cool.
Yeah, it is for sure.
I was thinking, I read it earlier, but I was thinking there was something in there and you said you would have more information tonight. And I can't remember now what it was.
I'll say there's
I'm
lots.
sorry.
One of the things that talked about would be enrollment count right now.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And that's tomorrow though, right? When they're doing.
It is tomorrow. So tomorrow is when they do the data pool for it. Pull that real quick, unless Angie has it on the top of her head.
What, the number?
The number, yeah.
Probably 834.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, we've had some back and forth on that. We've had some kiddos switching from in-person to virtual. And like I said in my report, we've had a few, probably within the last 3 weeks, some bigger behaviors that this isn't going to work for them. Also, as I mentioned with the academic contracts, as we're going through and doing credit evaluations and audits and things, and with our APA diploma, there are a lot of extras that are required as part of our charter and our services. And so we have a couple kids that there may be an alternative option for them, or some that were on the fence about even continuing education. And so we're trying to get them connected with Excel, which can help them in their situation. And so we've had a couple of those really hard conversations. And so, we're working through all of it and building. I think you've already got a wait list for next year, and
We're about 20 right now.
so.
Are those like, they don't wanna start now because they're like kindergarten, or they're
Young eight of our kindergarten.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah, and some of them, sometimes we have kids that are moving to our area, or they're going to be changing custodial parents, or they want to finish out the year with their friends, but they're going to transition. A lot of the transition we see comes in from 8th grade to 9th grade, where some of the local Catholic schools, they only go up to 8th grade, and so then we see more entry there.
And since you mentioned it, I typically call people and say, we do have a spot open now if you want to bring them down, but K through 5 are booked. I've got another one for this one.
Okay, so K through 5 is booked, and that's in even the virtual, or the virtual is an option, or virtuals?
So we can add some virtual, but these people all specifically ask for numbers.
Oh,
But
okay.
that's on the actual form.
Okay, so that's why they're like on the list.
I feel like that was the only thing I had said, hey, I will bring an updated number on.
Okay. Any other further discussion?
One question I
Sure.
had brought up in the pre-meeting financial review, you answered quite well about the Kellys, the subs. I guess I still would ask the question, compared to our amended budget, we're 49, 50,000 ahead of where we thought we would be. Is that basically because we've retained from last year, late last year, our higher pay schedule, so we could get good people and be competitive? Or are we having to use our subs more? Which might be indicative of a problem, perhaps.
So actually neither on those.
Oh, okay.
The challenge that we have been facing is that we've had some long-term subs for medical leave, or because we're waiting for a position, where we had like an elementary teacher resign for medical mid-year, and then we had to wait for the student teacher to be available. And so if you are a long-term sub, there's actually a more of an increase because they are responsible for helping with the grade books, helping with the planning,
Right.
and working that way. So
Was that more at the high school level? Because I was thinking.
it's been elementary and middle school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I know there was one building number that was I was thinking it was high school, it's quite a bit higher, but
Yeah, and
minor detail there.
based off, if you look kind of through our salaries and everything, you'll see we have some shortfalls up top. That's because there's a long-term sub filling that position right now. But we are pretty much fully staffed at this point. We do have 2 new hires that we hired before Christmas break, but they were held by ACS. And so they will be starting with us in about a week and a half.
And goodbye Kelly Services, so we'll drop that.
And
Kelly,
that's,
go ahead.
oh, no, sorry.
Oh.
That's that Ryan and Michael?
Yes. They're-
Kelly Services, that, again, trivial information, but that is under, that's called substitute expense, and it's under SG&A. Unlike the building subs, which are part of the instructional salary expense. So I
Yeah,
think we finally all learned where some of those numbers were parked.
Is the 3,700 the only savings that we'll be getting as well, or will it be, is there additional savings?
There would be additional. I was just giving an example of what we would have saved thus far. And so basically, their entire markup is about 38, like 0.38. And so, we're paying significantly more for their subs. Now, we've gotten some great people from there, and we've sent them some great people. It's just with all the onboarding and all that stuff, and now that we have kind of a healthier pool, we should be able to move forward and go back to managing a room.
All right. Any other further discussion at all?
Can I make notations on mine?
Sure, isn't it? You see something wrong?
Oh, not
Oh, yeah.
wrong.
Oh, okay.
You just want to
No,
expand.
depending on which one you
elaborate.
printed, it might
Yes.
not be wrong. Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure that we are notating, it's on page 12. If you look at some celebrations, one of a huge life-changing thing, Vanessa McNeil, who has been a longtime APA student, her family actually is from year one, won the Lilly Endowment Scholarship. That was announced in December, and she is the second person in APA history to get it. Actually, her brother-in-law was the first recipient, and basically that is a full ride plus extra benefits to any college of her choice. So
Has she chosen yet?
I feel like she might be favoring Hanover, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. There might be a connection
Wow,
there.
that'll be expensive.
There's a pretty charming young man that goes to
Yes.
Hanover
That's what
that
her boyfriend
might
is.
be influencing that.
Okay.
So, I also, and we do have one of our phenomenal dancers in here, but wanted to give a shout out to the APA math guys as well as Sergeant Tidwell, because they all performed at Dancing Like the Stars, and it was a really great night for everybody. And we got to bring home a mirror ball trophy and watch some awkward dancing happen. But
Some good Facebook coverage I saw there.
yes, it's nice to be on our social media, but honestly, two of my biggest places that I like to send people who want to become leaders or having time jumping out. One of them is Leadership Academy of Madison County, which has been phenomenal for a lot of people, but Dancing Like the Stars, you think it's just a dance thing, but it is so much more. And it's been really, I went through it in 2020 and it was life-changing. I know Sergeant Tidwell, it was pretty impactful with her, right? And
Second year, right?
yeah, she got out there with that alumni group and
Was this the first time that they had an alumni dance group? That's what I was thinking, because I know Ivy Walsh, who emceed the last 2 years, said that was all she was doing, so. Yeah.
it was pretty cool.
We didn't have that on the Facebook page, though.
Oh, she's in one of our pictures. They didn't get a lot of pictures of her while she was dancing. 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
There was a time. I wish they.
Well, we could have gone if we wanted to see all
Well,
of the
there is
dancing,
that.
I guess, so.
But there was a part where she was right in the front and everything, and I was in the balcony, and my camera and I'm not getting along. At one point, I had it up and I was filming her, and then I looked down at my camera and realized it was filming the wall.
Oh, okay.
I gave up. I just said, fine, I'll steal from somebody else.
Well, she's
So,
our backup then, if something happens to you, I guess, on our.
I should not be trusted with any photography or video equipment. Another thing, Community Chefs, that is through Community Hospital. It is a great fundraising activity that they do for the local schools as well as their foundation. And they split profits and give them to the schools, and they sent us a check for $2,500. And their caveat on that is that it goes to help students with health-related
Health, yeah.
needs, and the mental health is included in that. And so we've got it in part of our Support Our Students Fund, where that, as things come up, we now have a little bit of money to go towards that.
I think it was Linda West from the Community Foundation, isn't she the contact on that?
She is one of them. Tom Bannon
Tom
is
Bannon,
usually
yeah,
who I work
that's her
with.
boss, so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he's actually an APA alum uncle, so I see him more. We did have mayor's grants recipients. The mayor was here yesterday and awarded Misha King and Lori Raper. Both submitted grant proposals to them for some project-based learning things, and Lori wanted different flexible seating in her chemistry class. She likes to do a lot of collaboration, and the tables or the desks that we were able to get her were a little too big for that space, and so she needed something more agile. So very excited for both of them. And then we have one more right now. Our 8th grade boys basketball team They are currently undefeated, and they won the PAC, which is our conference tourney this weekend. And tomorrow they take on Pendleton for a county tourney. They had 3 goals this year. They want to have an undefeated season, they want to win PAC, and they want to win county. And so
They can do it.
they can do it.
They can do it.
And they have had some trials and tribulations this year, learning how to win graciously and, you know, go through some of those things and have people just maybe be a little upset with you because you might have some skills. And they've learned to handle that with good character and poise, and they've been pretty great on that. It's been great to see them grow. And yeah, so we got to do a little presentation to them today. We've got a big picture blown up. We're gonna put it on the wall and get a plaque under it. And then they gave me a trophy. So there will be, I think, somewhere on social media a picture of me holding a trophy up in the air. Super excited. So it was good. So we had a great weekend, and coming up this coming weekend we have our girls, and we're thinking they are going to be in that sectional championship game. Our boys, middle school boys, we're expecting them to be in the county championship game, and then we're trying to squeeze in a high school boys game, and they won on Saturday, so we're having some fun.
That's awesome.
So there you go.
Good. Thank
It
you.
sounds like our high school then will have a good team
Yeah.
in the
Coming
coming
up.
years
That's what I was
then
thinking.
with all those 8th graders.
Yeah, and
Good.
we started a couple years ago building, you know, a 4th and 5th grade team and a 5th and 6th grade team, trying to get that little league part going, because once they get to high school, you know, you're missing about 8 years of development. And so we've been able to do that with our boys and girls team, and we're starting to see some of that happening. And even with our JV boys team, you can tell that they've been playing together for a little bit longer. So we got some good stuff happening, and they're doing very well academically. So
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Next is the financial report.
Okay,
And first is the board treasurer report.
all right.
Mr. Ack, it's all yours.
Well, let's see, it's been a while since we've been together,
Yes.
actually, I think November 29th, and at that time, we were trying to project what our year end was going to be based on actual numbers up through October 31st. And then if you'll recall, at our November meeting, we approved an amended budget, and we did spent some time during that meeting going through that. So I won't review that, but I did want to refresh everyone's memory that what we will be comparing November's actuals and December's actuals will be against the amended budget. So looking at where we think we'll be based on actuals through the end of the calendar year, 12/31/22, total income is actually about 493,000 higher than our amended budget, which is good. I can't think of any occurrence when a big increase in total income isn't good. So we're looking at 12,453,147 versus 11,959,512. And the reason why, well, let me go ahead and read the rest of the numbers, and then we'll get into a little more explanation as to what has occurred here. Let's go to our total expense. And if you will notice, or if you have had a chance to look at my pre-meeting review, actually our latest projected total expense of $11,946,323 is only a little about 28,000 higher. So what has happened here is in the amended budget, we pretty much have captured these additional expenses that if we had known about back in May when we approved our budget, we certainly would have included those. And the reason then that the total income is over the amended budget is the CFIG grant. We actually are showing about 118,000 more coming in than what we had in the amended budget. And the titles, which mostly Title I and the federal special ed, about 171,000. And then food service, which of course we know always fouls up our budget variance analysis because it's a fully reimbursable expense, that was an additional 89. So that was what was happening there in those two grant categories that has improved total income. Now, you can see just by sort of roughly doing the math in your head that we are going to have a very good bottom line. Cash net income is projected to be about $505,824. That's a little less than we thought it would be back at the end of October. The cash is a little bit under $1 million, $953,924. But if you look at the amended budget figures, we were only projecting officially $41,323 cash net income, with $489,637 as ending cash, and that is a very, very low figure, which we are very glad that we will not be coming close to at all. And as Beth and Andrew explained at the last meeting, recall that an amended budget, which we rarely have had to do, at least where the board voted on it, is not the same thing as a brand new forecast. It's basically saying that there was a material change that has occurred after we made the original budget. In this case, it was enrollment. Could go way up, could go down, could be changing like a funding formula. Those are the kind of things that would cause us to have an amended budget. And basically, if there's any additional expenses that we were not aware of, we try to gather all of that into the amended figures under the, I guess, the rule that if we had known about that, we would have incorporated that. So that would be why, even though we're looking at a very strong year, the amended budget is still that very, very conservative figure. Let's see here. Let me see my other comments. Most of the expenses, yeah, let's see. Yeah, from our last board meeting, expenses have climbed about $761,000. And as I just said, those are pretty much accounted for in the amended budget. Building improvements is similar to the food service purchases and then our reimbursements that come up in income, in that you have to understand what they represent, because as you're trying to do your budget versus actual analysis, they tend to kind of throw a monkey wrench into it sometimes. But the building improvements was about 42% of the increase in total expenses from our last board meeting to what we think they'll be now. And basically, and again, our experts are here to correct me. Occasionally I get things still a little bit incorrect or misunderstood. But when something appears on the building improvements line, that will go on our official balance sheet as a depreciable asset. And also it means that the work has been done and we've been invoiced and we paid the invoice. And then the next step is we will seek reimbursement. So eventually that will show up above as total income. So it's basically a wash type expense. And I know you've heard the term placeholders, trying to capture that somehow. And then also I think some other $154,000 increase in our debt service. Remember, we had a question on the sensor device and the software, the smart sensor lease. is what's jacked up, because the entire principal portion went into our existing debt service. So that's what accounted for that. And then we had a pretty good hike in about 107,000 in the G&A professional services, which is often related to our special ed, where we need to hire out people, experts outside to help us. And then we talked about our total sub-expense. Let's see, we'll look at then November and December, which we'll be voting on to approve. November was the better of the 2 months. Although I will state that almost all of our grant categories in both months were below budget, some significantly below budget. So when that happens, obviously you're probably not going to have a stellar bottom line. However, I did include in my tables that I sent out in that pre-meeting report, I showed our projected for January. And January is when we're expecting to get our big innovation grant second installment. And that amount is 500, where is that? Oh, there it is, $562,500. Now, that's, I believe, our only significant grant, maybe the only grant, that is actually cashed to us from the state. And then we can't use it on everything, but is it fair to say there's a fairly, we have some, let's say, leniency or in the guidelines of what we can use it on?
Yeah, we've got a little bit of room there. Basically, the innovation grant can be used on facility projects, transportation, any of our facility costs. So a lot of our building improvements, grounds improvement, our track came from that. Technology can be purchased with that money. Our mortgages and things can be paid for out of that. And so it'd be nice if we could use it for other operating costs and things as well, but it is more aligned with what capital project dollars would be.
Yeah. Okay, so assuming that we get that, and I see no reason why we would not, I think we were forecasting, or let's say budgeting, about $640,000 bottom line if all of our grants and everything that didn't come in November and December, if they come tumbling in here, we may have a very big January. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. And sure, you go right ahead here.
No, that money did come in January.
Oh, did it? Oh, okay, that's right. I should have known that. January's over already, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
it came in.
Okay, well, that's great then.
Let's let you know that.
Okay, yes, I won't have to worry about that then. I am trying to keep my blood pressure down. The doctors are fixated on blood pressure, so yes, they'll appreciate hearing that. And let's see here. November's cash net income was $88,967. We were expecting around 40,000. So again, we could have done better, but all of the grant categories were down. Moving then to December. December was not expected to be as good of a month. We only had about 11,000 budgeted on the amended budget under cash net income. Again, the grants were not there for whatever reason. Food service reimbursements were lagging a little bit further behind. Again, this is a very familiar refrain because so much of our, other than the state tuition and the innovation grant, we have to spend the money first. And then sometimes it can take several months, especially on the food services, to get those reimbursements in. So it's difficult to do any real analysis on the monthly, but we try. Let's see. Also, we had 319,000 additional building improvements in December, which, again, that looking at the end of the year bottom line is really a wash. It's a benefit to us, but it does throw your budget versus actual sort of in an unfavorable situation there temporarily. So basically, we were able to, over Christmas, turn a $11,000 cash gain into a $398,000 cash loss, which took us down at December the 31st to about 630. But we should certainly, now that we know we've got that innovation grant, if everything else is coming in, we should more than make up for that in January. The only other thing I've got to mention, or I wanted to mention, since we are voting on the financials for November and December, it is true that in board meetings, we do rely on our cash basis for our discussions. Several reasons for that. I think the main one is that's how the board begins in May with our, working with Bookkeeping Plus and Tim and everyone. This is our best estimate for what we're going to do in the following year. So obviously, that would be the document that we would best use to track how we're doing. And since capital improvements, those big projects are depreciable on an accrual financial statement, it's more difficult to keep track of how we're doing on that. So, but I will mention, and I think I will start doing that, for November, I will also give the accrual net income. On a cash basis, it was $88,967. On an accrual basis, which is actually our official net income, $155,550.12. Now recall that the biggest difference between those two numbers would be a rather large depreciation expense. We won't get into any more detail than that. And then for December, just as we had almost a $400,000 drain on our cash, in other words, we had to take out of our cash balances almost $400,000 to cover all of our operating expenses. But again, that was short term. We know what our end of the year will be, almost $1 million. Maybe we'll exceed $1 million if we're fortunate. But the accrual loss then for December was only $163,299. So I will go ahead, since the entire financial package we get has both the cash basis, our cash flow statement, budget, rolling forecast, and then we do have all of the accruals. So I will start, I think, in the future giving net income in both, so there's no mistake that we are voting to approve all of those financial numbers. I think we used to have a board member that he was adamant that he said we need to be discussing as a board on an accrual basis. And Beth and Andrea, I disagreed with that and still do. I can't conceive of how we might best conduct this little review trying to use our accrual financials, but at any rate, they're no longer with us, so we won't pay any attention to them anymore. But they were a good board member, but I did disagree with him on that point. So that's all I have. If anyone else has any corrections or questions or anything, please feel free to jump in.
Further? All right. I'll just put this up, actually, the approval of it. So let's put a motion for November's finances.
I'll move that we accept the November financial report.
We still don't have the motion and approval for Dave's.
Oh, a report, sorry.
Oh,
Thank
my
you.
report.
Yeah, thank you for.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
Thank you for checking it, yes.
Okay.
I overlooked that, yes. Can I get a motion to approve the board treasurer report?
I'll move that we approve the board treasurer report as reported.
Yeah, thank you.
Did I detect a little hesitancy there?
I did.
Oh.
We got a motion and a second.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries for that. Thank you. All right. Next, again, the approval, I'm gonna split this up here, approval for the November 2022 finances. Can I get a motion for that?
I'll move that we approve the November financials as presented.
I'll
second it.
A second, all right, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. And then can I get a motion to approve the December 2022 financials?
I'll move that we approve the November
December.
2022.
December.
Wow.
You know what? I am having a bad night.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let's try again. Okay, I'll move that we approve the December 2022 financials as presented.
Thank you.
Glad I can't make the motion.
Yeah.
I will second the motion.
All right, we have enough second. All right, motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, thank you, Dave, as always, for your reporting for that. And thank you, Bookkeeping Plus, ladies, as always, for your hard work and what you do. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye.
All right,
See
enjoy
you
the rest of your
guys.
evening.
Bye.
All right, next thing on the agenda here, new business, Meridian Health Services, school-based clinic proposal.
Yes.
All right. Hello. I'd like to come on, step on up.
Sure, okay, right here?
Yeah, just find up here.
I do.
Oh.
It's on my flashcard.
Oh, can I steal something?
Well, I don't know, I haven't seen my face, my cover sheet.
Oh, that may be your cover sheet.
I don't wanna take your cover sheet, get your cover sheet.
Okay.
I
Pass
don't
these
know.
around for you.
Yes, please.
Okay, yes, no. Wait, I'll circle around. You want to pass these around this way?
This
Yeah.
way. Thank you. That's okay.
What's that? SH.
There's two, okay. Two people there, two cards.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all signed.
Here is a touchscreen, so that might be easier. This is the first time trying out this whole thing, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, here. Now, this is what Mike was with, right? Meridian?
Yes.
I wonder if they know Mike.
Oh, they know Mike.
Okay, well, they may not.
Requested, yeah, where is he?
I'll be asking him tomorrow. Is someone sitting right here now? No.
Go ahead and start that so we're not staring at my children. I mean, not that my children are just wonderful to look at, however.
Oh, sorry about that. Put that right in the middle.
Yeah.
It
It works. Megan.
Bye, Kim.
All right, well, good evening, everybody. My name is Lisa Suttle. I'm from Meridian Health Services. I'm a vice president. Just to let everybody know, my background is nursing, so I get a little passionate when I start talking about the nursing part, so I'll just let you know that right off. Carrie has joined me today too as well. She's the director of our children's services at Meridian Health Services. So we just want to provide you some information about a program that we have at a few of the schools already. Muncie Community Schools is one, Richmond Community Schools, Union Modoc Schools, I don't know if anybody knows where that's located out at. We just signed with Portland Schools and are working with Frankfurt Schools, and then we're in Anderson Schools. So quite a few agencies have taken us up on this program, and hopefully you guys will take a look at it too, but I just want to provide you some information about it. The title of what we do is a school-based health care clinic, and specifically we can do that because Meridian is an FQHC, a federally qualified healthcare center. We're also a CMHC, we're a community mental health center. So there's different things that we can provide underneath each one of those umbrellas. Underneath the FQHC, we're able to do the school-based health clinic, which includes comprehensive primary care, medical care, and then preventative care too as well for medical, oral, mental health, substance abuse services. And then who qualifies for those services? I don't know if anybody's familiar with an FQHC, but we get certain reimbursement for an FQHC, which helps to serve the underserved population. So it means they don't have to pay out of their pocket, and if they do, most of ours don't have to pay anything. It's usually a Medicaid population. We help to get them signed up for Medicaid if they don't have it. If there is some type of charge, most of the time it's $10 is what we're seeing across the board. So it's for all ages, regardless of their ability to pay or having health insurance status. We see all patients across the board. The overall goal of this type of service is to develop a comprehensive system of school-based healthcare services where we can refer them to more in-depth services that we have or somewhere else. And then it links the school to primary behavioral health care services. What we've seen in our other schools is lots of times kids don't have primary care services. Not anybody's fault, just not able to get those. And we're right in the school to be able to provide that, get consent from the parents, and then move forward with treatment that they need. We like to collaborate and partner to promote this. When we've come into the schools, we've not come in to take over. We're here as visitors and to do what the school needs us to do. And we build upon that directly. That's a big part of what we like to do, not come in and take over. So again, it is about the physical and mental health care, supportive services for students, families, employees, families, and residents of the community. And I'll talk about that a little bit. Recently in Anderson schools, we were able to do a flu shot clinic that was free to the staff at the clinic. And again, just to try to open up those lines of communication and people feel comfortable with what we do. We include academic, social, emotional, and physical health specifically. Underneath our medical services, it's age-appropriate health screenings, diagnosis and treatment of acute conditions, immunizations, sport physicals, first aid, obesity intervention, management of chronic health conditions, medical case management and follow-up, and referrals to a more in-depth primary care provider as needed. I'll give a couple of examples of some of these. We do health screenings to where we can do school physicals, but we can also do yearly wellness exams too, which we found a lot of kids don't have those. They just don't have the opportunity or accessibility to get those. Diagnosis and treatment of acute conditions, sore throat, earache, all of those kind of things. We can diagnose and provide prescriptions on site. So kids can either go home 24, 48 hours or be back to school very quickly. And that's our main goal too, is to help to keep kids in school, not that they're out of school. During COVID, that we were in Muncie Community Schools at that time, we helped with a lot of the interventions. The vaccines, we had drive-thrus where the parents and the kids could come through and get that. We do that for the flu clinics too as well. Immunizations is big right now, really big. I don't know if you guys got the letters the last couple of days, it was crazy, but those all were retracted today. But we work very quickly with CHIRP and getting things documented so that we're on target with making sure that immunizations are completed. We work with the health departments in the local areas too, so it's not just us, we partner with other agencies so that we're on target with all of that. Behavioral health services is big. Portland was the first area that they signed on with us, not so much the primary care, they really wanted the behavioral health component in there. As we know, you guys are under the gun to really make sure that things are safe within the schools, and making sure that parents feel comfortable with that, but that we're following certain guidelines. So a lot of those interventions there are things that we follow, making sure that kids are getting the services they need. The ACEs survey specifically helps us to know a little bit of background about the kids and the family, about where they're at, and then what we need to move forward with. Education and promotion of services, we like to help with education within the school. We provide free CPR. I say it's free to you guys, but we pay for it directly because again, providing the service in the school, we're looking for that support too. We can't do it all. And if we have other people definitely that are trained to help with some of those things, it's very important to us. Health campaigns, peer health education, health fairs, classroom presentations, any of those kind of things. Drug and alcohol prevention, we have some special evidence-based practices that we can provide training and education about. Sexual health, which has come up a couple times in the schools. And again, not something we push to just say this is it and this is what we're doing. It's not how it goes. We partner with the schools to figure out what they want us to do and then move forward, because that can be a little touchy every once in a while. Nutrition and fitness, of course, and then suicide and prevention. We do mental health first aid training and QRP, which is should be QPR, which is very similar to like CPR, but it's mainly for suicidal or any thoughts like that, self-harm specifically. So any of those kind of services. Preventative health services, again, our health screenings make sure disease prevention, prevention services and education around nutrition, mental health, and high-risk assessments and health maintenance. So lots of things that we provide from the primary care, medical, dental, and behavioral health, but also some other things that we do just just because it helps to get kids going in the right direction, also helping with the parents too specifically. So mental health counseling, drug and alcohol awareness, smoking cessation, nutritional counseling, support for eating disorders, parent education, peer counseling, health education, and physical activity and exercise awareness. So nursing services, this one's a little bit different, and because this is not something that we get reimbursed for, but we found as we went into schools, it's been really nice that that is something that has come underneath the umbrella of Meridian, mainly because in many respects, we take the cost away from the school. If they don't have to pay for that, there's certain benefits that we can give to nursing staff because we are a healthcare organization. Many of the nurses have appreciated that. It also helps us to have that direct link to kids of when they're coming into the nurse's station about things that are going on with them, that it can be an immediate referral to a higher level of care with a nurse practitioner or a physician. And we're right there, able to do that immediately. And that's where we sustain what we can do is when they get that higher level of care. So it's not a push, it's a need. It's a need that we're seeing in schools that, kids just need that type of service and care. That can be behavioral health of a licensed professional and or nurse practitioner or physician for medical or behavioral health. So we can bill underneath the FQHC for those type of services. What we ask for the school is a place to do this. We don't ask for any money for the school. We haven't asked for money for many of the areas. We do all the marketing. Again, we partner with the school directly, but to be able to be an FQHC in the school, we have to ask for that through HRSA, which is a federal agency, and we have to have a location, an address, and a room number of where we'll be located at. We bring in exam beds, different desks, things like that that we need specifically to be able to provide the service that we do. And I mean, bottom line, that's pretty much it. It has been very nice. The schools have really appreciated it. 2 of the superintendents you can call directly, and they'll let you know how it's going. Dr. K is one, Dr. K. Wykowski, who is the superintendent of Muncie Community Schools, and then Dr. Curtis Wright. He is the superintendent of Richmond Community Schools. Both of them have nursing services. We can do it without nursing services or with them. Anderson specifically was a unionized nursing service within there, so they asked that we not do that, and we're perfectly fine with that too. We can come in only with behavioral health services because we can expand our scope to be able to have an FQHC that has behavioral health, or we can do primary care without the behavioral health. There's all kinds of options. We do, in your folder, you'll see just some different things, just about some things we've done at other schools and information that we've provided, about suicide assessments, risk, all those. We do all of that marketing specifically to help. You'll probably see this one here, and it kind of goes through in a real quick snapshot of what we do provide to the school, specifically in all the areas. We develop these specifically for the area, so like this one says, this one's just a generic one across the board, but at the top we can put the logo of the school and the name too as well. Goes out to the parents. We like it when we can electronically send that out. There is a consent at the beginning of the school year that's with the registration packet. Ooh, that was rough. With the registration packet that has information about Meridian specifically, just so parents know that we're here. They can either accept or decline, to see us. But even if that does occur, of course, they'll know nursing services if that's the direction we go, be in the school. Even if it goes to the next level of needing a licensed provider to see them, we're always contacting the family first. We don't see the kids unless that happens. And we did hear some, stories about people wanting to know about what's going on. We definitely know that needs to occur. So that's a lot of information in a short amount of time, but just wanted to give you as much information, give you some time to think about it, and ask us any questions. You have our cards. You can get back with us. Jill, we came and did a presentation a little while ago about this, and then she asked us to come back today, so. And Mike was supposed to be here, because we work with him too, so I have to pick on him tomorrow.
We're definitely gonna have to on that one. I should have sent us
Yeah.
text.
Mike's still,
Yeah.
now Mike is retired, is he still with Meridian?
He is still.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
not
okay.
retired.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I'll see where he's at.
I said, I don't think he understands the concept of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and I would just like to say, I am 1,000% behind us getting this for APA. We do serve a high needs population in so many areas, and COVID has just exacerbated what already was an issue. And being able to service students on site, being able to provide, if we eventually, and we had talked about the nursing services, if we had to move to that direction later on, being able to add that, or even our own nurses looking at possibly joining Meridian instead of APA. Whatever we can do to get this here is something I think is in the best interest of all of our students, our staff, and our families. One of my favorite parts about it is, as I mentioned, the staff, right? During COVID, people were trying not to come to work sick and things. There have been a lot of sniffles and, I just don't have time to get, or no, I know I needed to get my flu shot, but that didn't happen and I just can't figure it out. Well, they can run down on their prep and do it. And with our kiddos, even, with dental services, with the mental health, with the physical health, we are working very hard to try to educate the whole child and teach them those healthy practices. And I think giving them access to a resource like that and seeing this is what you can do when you are sick. This is what, you can go through, and you can get, the importance of taking care of yourself and all those things. I think this is a win-win all around for everyone, so.
Is this something you're looking for the board to approve this evening?
If I wanted to give you the opportunity to learn about it, and if you have further research you would like to do into it, that's great. But if this is something that the board would be ready to move on, I know we have to apply.
There would be a agreement that I would send to you. The board can review it, your attorneys too can as well, signatures. And then from there, we would apply through HRSA to get this site as a location to where we could provide. It takes around 120 days, so it would be fall before we could actually begin. But we would start to begin to post positions, so we'd have the staffing available, and then whatever location we'd have, we'd get it furnished.
And then that would be, the staff would be on location the whole school day then?
Right.
Multiple staff, like one or two people, or?
What we staff it with right now is a nurse and an MA, and when nursing is involved. If you don't want nursing involved, then we'd have a nurse practitioner and an MA, so that you would have that level of service. Not uncommon that sometimes we do virtual, but it just depends on the volumes of the school of what we start to see. So, and nursing, I don't know if you guys document through PowerSchool. You guys document through that state?
We use Skyward.
Skyward, okay.
Yeah, it's a similar program.
And we would just make sure that our documentation is included in that too as well. Like I said, we do all the requirements for a nursing part that the state requires. We go to training for that. We partner with the local health departments to make sure we're in compliance and that the schools are in compliance with everything that needs to occur.
I have two questions. So to tag on to that, does it involve how many folks are here? So say if we had 400 kids, you only have 2 people. If we had 800 kids, you have 3 or 4 times. So it just kind of goes by.
Yeah,
the tier
what we
from that.
usually ask is how many kids are you seeing come
Okay.
to your clinic right now?
Okay.
And that helps us to staff it.
Staff.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, but we would go ahead and post positions according to
Yep.
that information,
Okay.
and that's what we did at other locations.
Now,
It worked out well for us.
the clinic would be, in other words, it wouldn't just be during the school hours only. You would have one clinic location, even though next year we will have 3 buildings. We have 3 buildings anyhow, but we may be using all 3 next year. So it's more than just, we would still need the nurses in each school building. But you would be just like Jean Pauley or Meridian out on Ohio Avenue. In other words, They could set up appointments with you,
Uh-huh.
and then, and of course, if we had the nursing service, then that would be integrated.
Right.
Okay.
And we would support the whole school system, not just the clinic or where we're located
Oh,
at. It would be the
okay.
whole school system. With the nursing, we have 9 nurses at Richmond schools
Mhm.
that they're in the elementaries and the different locations too. But the clinic is at the high school.
Mhm.
And the school helped us to pick that area of where they wanted the most volume, traffic in
Mhm.
that area. Any appointments with outside community, because it's an FQHC, we have to offer it to the community. But
Mhm.
any appointments that are outside will always be scheduled, and most of the time we like to get them at the Ohio Street location, just because of
Mhm.
safety of the school.
Right.
But any kids or teachers could come directly to that clinic
Okay.
anytime.
Okay, that's what I was
I was already
gonna
asked that
ask
too.
too,
Yeah.
is,
I was gonna move.
And both Muncie and Richmond schools, we have an entrance that's close to the clinic, that we put in a security system that people cannot just walk in and out of that door. The door's locked, it's a camera, they push a button, we know that they're there, we go get them, and know that that's who it is and then bring it into the
that was gonna
location.
be like my next question, cause it sounds like it would be longer than just the school day, since it would be open to like the family members and the community and stuff. So there would be somebody there more hours than when school's open. That's
8 to 5 is what we schedule with the schools right now.
typically 8 to
Yeah.
5.
Yeah, and anything that's from the outside, it's an appointment. It's an appointment, it's not a walk-in clinic or an urgent clinic at any time, so.
So what would happen with the current nursing staff? Would this be a replacement or just in
Conjunction with. And, you know, with our current nursing staff, I know one of them possibly in about 2 years will be transitioning because she's pursuing a degree in an unrelated field. And so, you know, we would have an opening in that area, and then, you know, Nurse Christie is amazing. I don't think she's close to retirement age yet, but she would be able to work in conjunction with, or if she so, you know, chooses to actually work with Meridian. As she did say, they do have access to some different health benefits and things that are a little bit different than what we have. They're a little bigger.
So we only have 2 nurses then?
We do. We have one in each building, and one is an RN, and then we have a CNA over here. And Nurse Chrissy is our head nurse and oversees all on that. But we would be looking location-wise definitely here right now, because we'd have to put them on the roof at 22nd Street. That might be a bit of a climb. Yeah.
That's a good view up there of the neighborhood, but
Yeah, and we've done some, you know, building kind of walkthroughs, Director Miller and I have, to look at where we'd be able to get it, what we could modify, so that they would have water and all of those, you know, requirements that you need for a clinic, and making sure that would be close to a secured entrance. As she said, anybody that would be coming from the outside would be escorted just like any other visitor here at APA. And so making sure that obviously student safety is number one, and making sure that we are good community partners.
Cool. That's great. Any other questions? We thank y'all for attending this evening and
Yes, thank
presenting
you.
the information. This is very helpful, and we truly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Do you want to do they have a jump drive?
They do.
I want to make sure we get your jump drive back for you.
Okay.
Yes. All right, next thing on the agenda here, I have a spotlight from 22nd Street from Captain Fraley. See,
Here?
yes, here.
He's in disguise. I'm him.
Oh.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you. All right. Captain Fraley is currently feeling a little under the weather, so I said that I would handle this for tonight. He will join us in person in April to give us a more robust presentation, which will also include second semester. So we start with, we're 100 days smarter. The weather and the electricity in Anderson did everything they could to try to keep us from this day and from having those signs up. The power to the building is actually out in this picture, but we made it. We got our 100 days in, so that was a tough one. Looking here, currently, this is the enrollment that we have for in-person. We did not include the APA online because we are going to have APA online do a spotlight, and that way they can answer more questions than what we could. So looking here, if you look at our different grade levels, because we are down where we only have 15 classrooms right now, 15 instructional classrooms, we're kind of at that average of trying to get to about 60 students per the representative grade level. We can't go full right now. If you look at first grade, we have 48 in person. We do have more that are in APA online, and we wouldn't actually have physical classroom space for that. So right now we're at about 333 students. If you look in your CEO report, that has stayed the trend for most of the year. We've kind of fluctuated between 340 or 334, 340, or 336 in that range. And then, the API online fills that out. So looking at this, we did want to highlight, right now we have 7% of our population that is identified as high ability. We do have 3 classrooms that have high ability clusters, and some of the students that are in the high ability clusters have not yet been officially diagnosed, I guess, or identified with meeting that criteria, but they are on our suspected high ability list, and so they are going through testing for that. We've got 18.3% of our elementary in-person are qualifying for special ed services, and we have 9% of our students, which is about 30 of them, that actually do need ELL interventions, which is an increase. And so we are working through that.
How does that special ed percentage compare to past years?
So
Higher, lower, about the same?
it's a little bit lower at the elementary, but not by very much. Looking at that though, some of the severity of needs or effects of those disabilities are a little more impactful, so it seems like it's a much bigger number.
That's the key metric really you need to know is what's the level of need required.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're looking, overall, we're about 22% right now, which is a little bit down from where we've been, but over the last 7 years, we used to be about 12 to 13%. We've jumped as high as 26%, and so we're kind of right in that spot, and seems to be where we'll be sticking. So that is our enrollment currently. Looking at the instructional staff, I wanted to kind of point out how many people we have everywhere. Like I said earlier, we have 15 classroom teachers. 3 of those are high ability cluster classrooms. We call that wings. And so those classrooms are mixed grade levels, they are mixed ability levels, and that kind of, as we have kind of the kindergarten first and second graders, as they mature, then they move into the next one, which is Amy Wiles' class, and then we have a high ability class that is mainly 5th graders right now. We do have 4 specials teachers that are full-time, so we do have art, music, neuroscience, and PE. We have 3 kindergarten instructional aides that accompany basically what we call Squadron 1 now. And then we have the 3 additional instructional aides that we added this year due to the severity of interventions needed. We split those between the special populations as well as Gen Ed. One at this point is mainly working with SPED. Another is working about 3/4 of their time with ELL, and then Gen Ed is getting the remainder. They fluctuate as far as where their assignment goes. One of the things that we are working very hard to do is to be very purposeful with who's getting the interventions, how effective it is happening, and who's already getting multiple interventions and who may have like slipped through or isn't in STAR, isn't getting an extra push in. And so using a lot of data to drive that decision making and really making sure that we're actually having an impact. We do have a dyslexia specialist as required by the IDOE. That is Becky Simmet, and she does a phenomenal job with our reading intervention groups. And then we also have an ESSER-funded reading interventionist, which is Nancy Wood. We added her back as we were coming back from COVID, and she has been phenomenal. Those two in collaboration are really moving the needle for a lot of our kids. For special services, we do house the majority of our ELL department over there. So Jenny Pruitt, the director of ELL, is over there, and she also does provide some instructional support. We have a teacher of record who is one of our classroom instructional teachers and is working on getting her licensure in ENL. That helps with when we administer WIDA. WIDA testing basically assesses language proficiency and tells you which kids need to have more targeted interventions. We've got the instructional aids as mentioned, and then additionally our partnership with Star Tutoring. We wrote that grant 2 years ago now. It was about $5.3 million, and it's benefiting 4 different school districts. And while we have after school tutoring programs at both campuses for that, we've actually been able to bring tutors in during the school day, and they are doing more targeted intervention. So it's really been a blessing to have that support and really get the kids to where they need to be. We also have a large part of our special ed population over there. Cassie Cunningham, the director of SPED, is now housed there and is providing instructional services and behavioral supports. We do have a licensed SPED teacher in addition to Cassie over there who is also doing the same thing, and then we do have 4 SPED paraprofessionals that are dedicated just to special ed. 2 of those are really focused on instructional interventions, and 2 of them are more focused on the behavioral supports and life skills portion. But they all kind of, whichever kid they've formed the best relationship with, then they're going to provide those services. And that is actually a picture of them for Halloween. That's Adrian Meeker in the middle that I guess is the sensei. So administrative staff and support staff, that is also part of the Halloween. We do have our principal, obviously Adam Fraley. We have our Dean of Discipline. We've got our Director of Academics, who also covers as the K-12 High Ability Coordinator, and our Lit Cadre Instructional Coach, which I will talk about what that is in a few. We've got a PASS and Behavior Monitor who is also assisting with ELL support. She is also providing translation services for our families. We have a data coach who also works over here. I mentioned him earlier, Derek Kramer. We do have a full-time counselor over there. As part of our specials, because we have seen such a significant increase with social and emotional needs and coping skills and mental health, she does actually teach a special rotation for kids where they're learning to do conflict resolution, they're learning collaboration, they're learning how to learn about themselves and how to make friends and those things. And so adding that in with the art, with the neuroscience and the music has helped create a more robust approach to what we're trying to accomplish. We have our secretary who is Tiffany King and basically runs the show, we also have our school nurse who is also the head nurse. We have a lunchroom monitor this year, Carolyn Warner, who tried to retire last year, so we found another way to keep her around. We do have a permanent building sub, and then we currently do have Aspire school-based services. They provide a counselor and a life skills coach. They also come over here to 29th Street, and to go off of the presentation we just had, Meridian would not be in place of, it would be in addition to. We already do have some Meridian Health Service counselors that do come see some of their clients here at school through a different partnership, but we would not be replacing Aspire. Like I said, all hands on deck. We've got some high needs going on. All right, so programming, Makerspace. You guys know that we are super proud of these spaces and we are using them to do really fun things. Project-based learning, the picture that I included on this, This includes kiddos tasting watermelon, some of them for the first time. Our teacher grew it in her garden, and that class, as part of their project-based learning this year, they also created a cookbook. And they went home and they worked with their parents. They're learning about healthy eating, and they created things like spinach pancakes, which it looked cute. I'm not sure I'm gonna be touching that anytime soon. But we are working on getting those printed so that they can have that tangible item to go through. But they've done a tremendous job. Miss Lester is that classroom teacher and has really been great on giving them new experiences. They're trying new vegetables in class and, you know, fun stuff.
And what grade is that?
So Miss Lester is mainly first grade. I think she has a split, might have a couple second graders in there, but mainly first. Looking at the next part, the Lit Cadre, that is a new program for us. The state offered an opportunity to opt into this. Some schools were voluntold that they will be doing that. And we decided, hey, this looks like a great idea, and you're going to pay for us to have this training. It basically is the science of reading. There has been a huge debate over the last 20 years. Do we teach phonics? Do we teach whole language? Do we change our standards? And as the state has changed all these things, there are gaps, right? And so with this, they're going back to the science of reading, which is something we've already been working on, but they're providing coaches for us. They are training our own instructional coaches. They're providing curriculum for us. And when we first signed up for it, there was no funding involved whatsoever. It was just, hey, we're gonna do these things for you. And they have actually decided that they're helping provide salary support for our instructional coach. And so that's been beneficial to us. We haven't received any reimbursements yet on it, but we will be. And that will be up to about $66,000 this year. And then next year it would be up to about $33,000. It is a partnership with CEL, which is the Center for Excellence in Learning, that is out of University of Indianapolis, and the director of that program is actually one of the old founders of Crystal House and some of the other charter schools. And so he's got a good head on his shoulders, and we are benefiting greatly from this.
Now, are we teaching, you said the science-based, is that teaching phonetics, how to pronounce things? Okay.
Yeah, so our kids, they do phonics dances and all these things. They're learning their sounds. Obviously, phonemic awareness is a huge thing, right? If you can't sound out a word, then you're not gonna recognize that it's a word that you've heard. Doing just sight-based education, sight words don't tell you meaning, they don't give you context, and you can't bring it together. The biggest challenge that any reader faces is basically the visualization of what they read. And so when you get an idea here, but you can't verbalize it, there is a cognitive processing error. And so by using the science of reading, kids are starting to picture the words and then process what that actually means and have a robust understanding of it. And so that's been around for a long time. We've been doing Linda Mood Bell interventions. There's also a group called Orton Gillingham. It's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other, and it is all based on helping kids actually understand the parts and the science to reading, and then to get their picture, make the movie in their head. For those of you who have kiddos, if you look and you ask them, do you see a movie when you read, and they look at you kind of dumbfounded, then they have some reading comprehension skills that they could work on that would open up a whole new world to them. So I'm a big proponent of that. That's part of my reading specialist background on that, but it's glad that the state is now on board and helping fund that. We do have a newspaper and journalism club that is new. Nancy Wood wrote a grant about 18 months ago to get this started, and so she's leading that, and the kids are having a great time learning about all of the cool parts of that part of being a journalist and kind of doing investigation, reporting.
Is that part of their classroom stuff, or is that like an after-school type thing, or both?
It is both. It is a pull-out opportunity, so they are removed a little bit from class so that they can get it. One of the things that, if you ever hear me presenting in a PD on this, I will always talk about hiding the veggies, right? If we tell a kid we're gonna sit here and do drill and kill on math, they're not in. If you say we're going to use food science and they're gonna all start learning their fractions and measurements during that, they're in and they're like, ooh, this is fun. And so because Nancy is one of our reading interventionists and is using newspaper and journalism, it's helping those kids develop their nonfiction skill development as well as their writing skills and, you know, exploring some future careers.
What grade is that, the fifth grade class, or?
She is doing that, I believe it's 3rd through 5th. I think it's those grade levels. I'll get clarification on that.
I was just curious.
Yeah. So the next part, Leader in Me, obviously here at APA, we want to empower leaders, and we have been a Leader in Me school for several years. This is an opportunity for kids to grow. A lot of it is based on 7 Habits of Highly Effective People with Stephen Covey, and basically our kids are learning kind of those skills, begin with the end in mind, seek first to understand and then be understood, and it has been impactful, and we have moved that up into the middle school now thanks to a grant, and they are in their first year. They've created a lighthouse team, which the elementary has as well, and so students are really becoming more involved in decision making and those things. As mentioned earlier, we have all those specials that we currently offer. Events, they have had some busy times. Pictures there are from our Veterans Day ceremony, which was pretty awesome and moving to attend. The kids, the top picture, you can see them, they were actually reciting cadence and talking about the different branches of the military, and it was phenomenal. I will make sure that I can send out some video to you guys so you can see it. We had Red Carpet Spirit Week as part of homecoming. We did a Hispanic Heritage Day fundraiser during Hispanic Heritage Month, trunk or treat. We raised $750, and that was selling apple cider and some things like that. We were busy the entire time. We were running out and buying. We probably gave out about 30,000 pieces of candy, and that's not really an exaggeration on that. And we still ran out. So it was great. We had a lot of community members coming in, and it was just a fun activity for everyone. The kids did a Cincy fundraiser, and so they raised $1,000, and so that helps them with some of the fun stuff they want as part of their lighthouse team. We did our winter art show and concert, and it was phenomenal. Rhonda Hamm always does a wonderful job with our music program, and Lacey Hoseman, and the art show is always just a tremendous thing. If you ever go in the elementary and there's a lot of decorations up, chances are Lacey did them, and they're incredible. We did an ELL family engagement night. It wasn't as well attended as we had hoped, but we are trying to do more of them. One of the ones that we have done previously that we'll be doing second semester is basically cookies and canvas, and so there's a play on that where the kiddos can come in with their families, have some cookies, and actually do a painting project. And then we had our holiday door decorating contest, which they went all out this year. They were pretty detailed things, and so the kids got quite clever, and the teachers got pretty interesting and creative, and so that was a good time. And then our staff, they were able to kind of hang out at the end of the semester and have a holiday party. That's always wonderful for them to get to do. So this is some of Lacey Hoseman's work. New this year, we were able to add a Scholastic leveled library. This is something we have wanted for a long time. Thanks to ESSER money, we were able to finally get that. It is currently housed on our stage because we've done a stage renovation and turned it into 3 usable spaces, but it can also convert back into being a stage for presentations and the like. We've added the school counseling as part of that rotation. We did get the new computers, which are updated so that all of our programs now work again. We've improved our outdoor lighting. We had to work with the city on some of that, and we are currently working with them to change our transformers out as a building because obviously we've had a little bit of challenge over the last few weeks with that. We did update our playground parking lot, and we'll be, once it has fully cured, we will be installing new basketball goals. The kids are going to be very excited. I do want to point out that the playground parking lot update and the new basketball goals was a student-led project, and they interviewed me and Captain Fraley last year and said, hey, here's what we're thinking. They asked how much parking lot was gonna cost, and I didn't have the heart to kind of tell them those exact figures, but that's what helped motivate me to go get that CFIG grant so that we could do that for them. They had a pretty good reason. They're like, we just don't want to turn our ankles playing ball. Like, sounds great. We do have our, yeah, it does, right? We have the Be the Eye in Kind mural that was done by some of our teachers with Lacey Hosman, and our kids like to get their pictures taken by it every time they can. So it does add a little bit of value to our playground, and also gives us a thing. Hey, be the eye. Talked about Lit Cadre, and then our new roof. We have completed that project, so the east wing and the boys locker room area has an entirely new roof that came out of CFIG as well, and that makes life a lot drier for everybody. Field trips, our kindergartners went to Russell Farms Pumpkin Patch. Alpha went to Tuttle's Orchard. Bravo, this is tentative, but they're gonna be going to the Children's Museum, we think, this semester. Our Charlie group, which included Amy Weile's Wings group, they went to the Indiana State Fairgrounds and they got to learn about plant science, animal science, and how all of those go together to, feed our country, feed our state. So they had a good time on that. And then Delta and Echo are gearing up for BizTown. This is a chance for them to go. It's kind of like small version of junior achievement where they get to be entrepreneurs, they get to kind of live in this town for a day and have different roles and learn a lot about the cool parts that go into running a community and having an economy. So we're excited for BizTown. It's always a great trip.
Is that like at a place, at somewhere?
It
Okay.
is. So we actually go, and I can't remember where the actual location is, but we do take them. They get their roles, they get their academy assignments, and then all that. But they spend a lot of time in the classroom up to this, learning those type of things. They will actually do an entrepreneur fair, at school where they will design their own products and then have kind of a bazaar to sell them and try to get the adults to buy a lot of them, but they are their own products that they design, and it's a really cool project-based learning opportunity, and a lot of families get involved.
Very unique on some of the things that they've come up with in the past. I mean, very creative and.
Yeah, to see some of the things our kids think of, I'm just like, when I was your age, I was still trying to figure out, like, okay, my shoe goes on this way, but all right, they're pretty smart. So we like to think a lot of that comes from the leader in me and the maker space and now having access to all that stuff, but they're pretty brilliant.
Helps grow that.
Yeah.
DIY in everybody, and as much as it's out there in the community.
Yeah, and social media is not always the greatest thing, but I think a lot of it when they are seeing some of those YouTube videos and they're like, wow, a kid could do this?
Yeah.
And then they're like, why couldn't I? So I like it for some things. Challenges that we are currently facing. Attendance is a huge issue right now. That's across the board for us as K-12 Institute. It's across the board for basically the country. Getting kids to consistently come to school, stay at school, and not have, the absences. We're trying to get as creative as possible. We've got a pretty extensive list of opportunities and ways to try to address it. And some of our kids, we are getting to that point where we do actually have to involve DCS or the prosecutor's office because of educational neglect. We try everything in our power to avoid that part because obviously we want school to be the place to go and we want the kids to come here. And so that we can educate them, but there are some that it's started to be very concerning, and so we have to follow that.
Is that a recent trend? Is that post-COVID trend, or
It is a post-COVID
has it always
thing.
been like that, at least in some schools?
Yeah, some schools have always had that. We've had a fairly good attendance rate, especially at the elementary in the past. One of the things that has kind of come out of COVID, I compare it to running a marathon, right? This year we are in a marathon, and we haven't really been training for it, because during COVID, you'd go for a couple weeks and then your class would get quarantined for a couple weeks. Or we'd go on e-learning because you didn't know the numbers were up, the numbers were down. And so the consistency of going to school 180 days and having to be there every day and be present has been hard.
They're wore out, they're burnt out.
They are burnt out, and it applies to kids, but it also applies to adults, right? We've been, a mental health day, and that's a great thing, but with our kids and our families, we're trying to get them back to the importance of every day that you're here. Every day you're here, we can move your kid, at least a week further than if you just keep them home. So we're working on that. Space and logistics, 22nd Street is quite cozy. When we moved 5th grade over there, we knew that it was going to be a little tight, but we knew that was in the best academic interest of our students. That is true. It was the right move for us, but it's cozy. And so we've had to get creative, as I mentioned, with the stage. We created some office space up there, so we have our testing coordinator, we have our Aspire office, which gives them a nice private place, and then we have our reading interventions. We are getting stage doors, and so it will be more of a sound deadening place. They're coming over back, 29th Street's getting some as well, and the 22nd Street will have a separate door that can go in there instead of having to go through the offices. And then parking is a challenge for us. It impacts arrival and dismissal to an extent, depending on how we can do it, but it also, when we have events there, if we have a family event, there's really nowhere to park. We've got, Jackson Park across the street, but there's not very many spaces. Street parking is kind of a challenge, and our neighbors aren't always thrilled when, there are a ton of cars. So we're looking at that. If you look at your wish list on the Google Drive, we've put on there, I've kind of figured out there's a nice spot where we could put it. We still have enough green space, and right now it's just yard space we don't use. It would be nice to have that for events, for our staff parking and those things, but we'll see what the legislators do with the funding this session before we
What
start
spot are
that.
you thinking?
If you are on Dewey and 22nd Street, there's a barber shop. That big lot where we had already put a little one there, that big grass lot could be an entire parking lot. And it lines up with our back parking lot already, and we can put in and out. That would also help with arrival and dismissal, because we could snake people through even more than we already do. And so that's kind of the space. Some of the 22nd Street staff wanted to try to put it in the front yard or kind of over by Fulton, right by the fire station, and that logistically won't work, and we won't get nearly as many spots as we could. So that's currently what's on a wish list.
Would that be a little hindrance for the fire station too?
Yeah. In case they're trying to get out. They
Right.
do make quite a few runs.
Yeah.
You didn't total your wish list, did you? Did you? I don't think you had a grand total.
Sir, my degree is
Because I
in
was
English.
looking at that. I have to add that,
She's gonna let you do that.
add that up
Yeah,
there.
we're gonna ignore that MBA part. We're just gonna talk about my English degree. I can't now. All right, so one of the other challenges, and we've talked about this for the last several years, the student social and emotional health and mental health is alarming to an extent. The social challenges and behavioral challenges that come from it, the kids are being exposed to things at a much younger age than they should, and that is taking a toll, because everything, here's a cell phone, here's a tablet, here's whatever, there's that, but also our entire country and our entire world just went through a shared trauma of the COVID pandemic. So kids were hearing things, adult conversations, because we were all in it, right? And you gotta put a mask on because this is going to get you, or this killed grandma, and those things. And so it's created a lot of social anxiety. It's created things that 5 years ago weren't nearly as prevalent. And so you can't just undo all of that, but you can help kids build some resiliency, learn how to cope with what they're going through, make sure that they do have that safe space, they're being listened to, they have trusted adults that can help them through that. And on top of that, we are also trying to provide those supports for our families, because they are going through significant challenges, and as you look at our economy, you look at inflation, all that, it's not been pretty great for a while. So this is to be expected. We're just doing whatever we can to try to help it. Obviously, there are some academic learning gaps due to COVID, and I am hesitant always with the word gaps because at this point, you're not going to fill them in. They are working right now at IDOE and with some legislative committees to actually change our standards again, and kind of get them streamlined so that kids are being expected to learn the things that they absolutely have to know to move forward. We have very robust standards in Indiana, and those aren't always about the foundational skills kids need. So getting back to basics so that we can move forward. I say, when they're like, oh, these learning gaps, you can get them taken care of like a year or two. It's a generational gap, and it's been, I could soapbox on this for years, but it's been in process for the last 20 years. And so it's what we're facing. We're doing a lot of great work. Our teachers are doing a phenomenal job. Our interventionists, our aides, pretty much anybody who has time. We have cafeteria workers are like, hey, I've got a couple hours. Can I volunteer? Who can I tutor? Pretty much anybody that can help is trying to. And so we've been making a very good concerted effort on that, and we're doing what we can. So there you go. That is the end of the elementary presentation. I'm sorry that Captain Fraley wasn't here to give it, but he'll be back with us in April and able to tell us kind of how second semester is going, how iLearn and iRead prep is kind of shaping up. iLearn's not really a great thing, but it's something we have to go through. So, any other questions? Fabulous.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great presentation, good feedback. Nice job. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, next thing on the list is the Indiana Learn High Impact Tutoring ESSER Funding Allocation Proposal.
Yes. That's also me.
You wanted to talk all night long.
Huh? I just love it. I like getting to be on that stage sometimes. I do like to get to teach, but rare opportunity. So, you're welcome. Last legislative session, the legislators put together a bill that would create a tutoring account for specific students that were impacted by COVID, and they did not make it for students that are currently in grades 6 through 8 or students that were going into 3rd grade. They decided to focus that money on current 4th and 5th graders, and the students that qualify for it are the ones that did not pass English and did not pass math on the iLearn assessment last spring. And so while they know that there are learning gaps across the board, they're trying to focus their interventions here at 4th and 5th grade, where it is essential for those students to be able to read, to continue their learning journeys, and to have that math intervention. So what they have done, they've identified, we currently have 60 kids that could qualify for this programming, and they have allotted $500 in a scholarship fund for those students. And part of their pitch for this is that if the school will put up another $250 per student, they'll put up another $250. And so if we make a $250 investment into those 60 students with our ESSER funding, because it does have to be federal funds that it comes from, then our students, instead of having access to $500 worth of tutoring, they would have $1,000 that they could use. It is a scholarship account, and it does have very strict parameters on it. That money is not going directly to families, it goes directly to the service provider. The service providers have to be vetted and on an approved list. Most of the ones that would be available to our students are going to be online, because most of the in-person ones are in the bigger city areas. I believe there's one up in Muncie. So if our students do have transportation, they could get there. One of the things that a school could do is to become a service provider, but it has to be outside of school hour tutoring. And that is not something that I know we could currently staff, because most of our teachers that would be able to do that are currently STAR tutors. And so kind of gets into that area. I have asked JobSource to look at possibly becoming a service provider, because as their current grant funding goes up, there could be possibilities like this to continue. And so I'm not sure how long that would take, but that's not going to be impactful for our kids right now. So the whole design of this is to do high impact tutoring, looking at the amount of hours for the 500 that they could get. The state is allowing tutoring services to charge up to $100 an hour for the tutoring. I'm not sure what the actual hourly rates are with some of the service providers. That stuff is all pretty proprietary and kept under wraps there, but if let's say they went for the maximum 5 hours of high impact tutoring, while it could make a little bit of a difference, 10 hours of it would make significant more. My hope is that they would be getting, they'd be charging about half of that for their services, and so they could be getting almost 20 hours of that. So my proposal is to become we would be called an Indiana Learns Champion Plus school, and commit $15,000 of our ESSER 3 funding to student remediation tutoring in partnership with IDOE and Indiana Learns. To do that, I have to email Sean Murphy at the IDOE and amend our ESSER grant. We do have the funds available in that. We currently have about $741,000 still available with ESSER. We do have some of that earmarked, but we did have some that was earmarked for remediation services, and so we could just do that and then work with the state on that. They are working that the way that they would do it is that their money would be spent first up to the $750, and then they would use our money. So for the students who didn't take advantage of that continued part, then we would still have the remaining money. But that's the hope.
Do they have an accountability for the students to make sure that they do participate, or is it that if they sign up but then don't participate to the full aspect of it, then that's the money that we don't use? Is that what that is?
Yeah, so the students, the way it would go, basically they enroll with a tutoring center, and then the tutoring center does kind of their involvement with all of it, and then it would be if they drop out or they don't participate, or they would get dropped by a service provider, then they just don't have access to their money anymore.
So this would be in addition to the STARS tutoring, or it would be in place of the STARS tutoring?
In addition.
How many 4th and 5th graders are currently taking advantage of the STARS tutoring?
That I do not know.
I was just curious, like how many are already in that? And would this be all of our 4th and 5th graders, the 60?
No, that is not all of the 4th and 5th graders.
So they have to be
they would have had,
Qualify.
yeah, they
to
would have had,
qualify.
yeah, they would have had to be enrolled in the Indiana school last year, be currently enrolled in Indiana school this year, have taken iLearn both parts and not passed both parts.
Okay, so we have essentially 60 kids that have not passed
Yeah.
both parts of the iLearn. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially one whole class, right?
Yeah.
As far
That sounds
as
like.
number-wise.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at our iLearn data, and part of February's presentation will be on more of that, the state average is under about 30% passing. So it's not great. iLearn, when they rolled it out, was not a well-designed test anyways. It has a lot of reasoning on there. It is more, I would argue, an aptitude test than an achievement test. And then because the way that the state changed our standards, there are designed gaps. They were originally rolling out the Common Core, and so kindergarten started with Common Core, and then the next year it was kindergarten first did Common Core, then it was kindergarten first second did Common Core, and that's how they're going to do it. And then the state said, nope, we're gonna go away from Common Core, we're gonna have these new standards, and by the way, this new test assumes you already learned all of these standards that are new and were not previously covered in the grade levels you already attended. So it wasn't a great rollout. It's not a very well-designed test. It provides us, I guess, some kind of baseline data, but our in-house data, our NWA data, that is what actually tells us how to help our kids. And so looking at it, a lot of kids in the state did not pass iLearn in English and math, and that's why the state can't really fund doing it beyond those 2 grade levels. So
Maybe we should give some of those tests to the politicians in the General Assembly. See if they can pass any of them. That'd be interesting, wouldn't
That
it?
would be interesting.
They would have trouble on
Yeah.
the common sense reasoning. Of course, they're,
well,
I better not say anymore.
and it's part of the toxic accountability movement. And how can you measure a child by one test that is one snapshot? You know, if you look at a photo album, all of their data points from a year, it tells you so much more. Because I had a kid in ECA which was the end of course assessment in English 10, she broke up with her boyfriend that she'd been dating for 2 years, 30 minutes before our test, and was bawling throughout the entire thing. She was 3rd ranked in her class and failed this test. Like she'd never read English before. And so she had to retake it, and when she retook it, she was a pass plus person. And so test environment matters, life environment matters that day, and iLearn, iStep, all that, when it was designed back in the 80s, was designed to identify students who needed extra help. And the legislator that proposed it a few years ago came out and said, if I had known what this would have caused, I would never have put this bill forward. I was trying to help my daughter. His daughter was a Wayne Township teacher and wanted some data points to help identify summer school irradiation. I thought it would be helpful for everybody. So, no good deed.
So if we vote to go forward with this, then you still have to find people that would be able to be the tutors for this?
No, this is nothing to do with APA.
They do it.
They do it. All we do is have meetings with our families, show them how to access and if they're eligible, and then the rest is entirely on them and
On the
Indiana
families,
Learns Group.
The 4th and 5th grade students.
Yeah,
Okay.
we
But
will
it's
not provide
our-
transportation.
But it's our money.
Part of it is. Most
Yeah.
of
Part
it's
of
the
it.
state's.
Part of it is coming from our money that we have from ESSER funding.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we would just be moving ESSER funding to a different spot.
Yes.
We're looking at roughly a total of 160 4th and 5th graders, and 60 of them qualify for that.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
Yeah, and I think depending on what service providers they use, you know, how much the kid puts into it, how much the
Right.
family puts into it, I think it can be impactful, at least that's what the intent is. I know, you know, pretty much everyone in the state right now and everyone in the country, they're trying to figure out whatever they can. A lot of it is the spaghetti philosophy and see what sticks. And so this was one of their legislative fixes, and I think it would be great for us to at least try to invest this into the kids. And
I can't disagree. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I think if we can get even half of those 60 to build their confidence in themselves as well, over taking that extra tutoring, because there's a lot of that there. It's gonna help them out mentally more as well.
With regard to the tutoring, I wanted to, I'm not sure I heard you right, but did you say it was $100 an hour? Was it?
the state has put a maximum on what they could charge,
Yeah.
up to 100. I would think that service providers, given the state of everything, would probably not go to that maximum.
that's
But
what I
they're
was
also
like-
businesses, so
Yeah.
there might be some bad actors. But because they have to be vetted and approved by the state, I feel like it should be in a reasonable
Yeah.
part. And so you know, at a minimum with the $1,000, they could get 10 hours.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking it will be more.
And one other question, another follow-on to that is high dosage tutoring, is that like some sort of, is that a technique or is that just like a general, I'm just curious if it's something special about this tutoring. Okay.
Yeah, so, and it depends on which service provider is working with it. If I was gonna provide high dosage tutoring, I would immediately go after the visualization techniques with reading comprehension, because that actually triggers math processes as well. Once a kid can do that, and so you can move the needle very quickly if you can get that to fall into place.
Okay.
And so most of these service providers would be doing some concept of that type of intervention. I just don't know who does what or where and.
That's interesting. I wasn't aware of that, so.
Yeah.
Doesn't involve any electricity use then.
Only if they did it online. We don't actually shock kids anymore. It turned out that it wasn't always the best idea.
That was a good question. What's so special about that 1 hour?
Yeah.
All right.
I will make a motion that we attempt to become an Indiana Learns Champion Plus school and commit 15,000 of ESSER 3 funding to student remediation tutoring in partnership with IDOE and Indiana Learns.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
All right.
Thank you for that. That is approved. Great job on that.
Thank you guys, and we're going to be reaching out to the families to make sure that they can navigate it. We can't do hardly any of it for them. We're not really supposed to do any of it for them, but we can give them all the resources and have them come in and use our computers. One of the parts is they have to use their student's STN number, which is kind of a long, wonky number, so.
It's 9 digits long.
There you go. She has to do them all the time. So we'll do everything we can to support our families so that they can take advantage of that.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, let's see. That was it on our agenda for tonight. Any other further discussion? All right, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Move that we adjourn the meeting?
All right,
I'll second it.
thank you. Further discussion? All right, the meeting is adjourned and we'll call it at 8:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for everyone for attending tonight.
We have executive session.
Yes.